Hello, Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name's Sean Waskrew. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels, and it is another one of our massive review dumps. This is kind of the way we're doing things now, with especially so many movies coming out and so little time for me and Brian to get on camera together. We are basically doing
the big ones will still get their own videos, and then everything else will kind of get combined.
Especially with summer and more and more movies coming out as they are. The big films like Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, which is out right now, and Thunderbolts and Ballerina here in a couple weeks. We'll probably have your regular videos for those specifically. Everything else that we feel like is deserving to talk about, but maybe not have its own video, that's when we'll do these big, massive review dumps where we kind of do it like at the end of the month kind of thing, or like, what did you watch in May and June and April and all that kind of stuff. And this is kind of more of like our May review dump, even though we got 1 week left technically. So we're going to be talking about movies that have come out here in the past month. Some of them, like I said, it's like, oh, I watched that movie like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, we did too. We're just going to talk about them now. But one of them did come, or three of them on this video did come out this weekend. We're just not giving them their own video like we did with Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. So we are going to be kind of talking about a lot of different films here. Some of them I've only seen, some of them Brian has only seen, so we won't be having much chime in on those. These are all non-spoiler, so don't worry about us spoiling anything with these conversations. But we're going to go ahead and jump right into one of the bigger films of the summer. Came out this week, and I was able to check it out. Brian did not, and that is Disney's Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch, the animated one, came out right around that time where I was at that age where I was like, I just don't really care about Disney animation anymore. I was like full on Pixar, but I didn't really care about Disney animation. Lilo Stitch, Mulan, like Brother Bear? Was that another one? Like those in that like little time frame kind of thing. I really didn't watch. I did watch Lilo and Stitch. I just don't really remember much of Lilo and Stitch. Like I know it has to do with a sister, two sisters, and the older sister kind of has to be the mom because the parents are dead, and then Stitch shows up, and there's other aliens like hunting Stitch, and Stitch is pretending to be a dog, and like I get the gist. Ohanami's family, and then also Elvis is a very big part of the animated film because they play like Elvis music because they're in Hawaii a lot. So I remember the gist of Lilo and Stitch, but not enough for me to watch this and go, oh, this is a shot-for-shot remake. I don't know it well enough to know if this is a straight-up shot-for-shot remake, so I can't really state that, much like an Aladdin or Lion King, where I've watched that numerous fucking times, where I can tell that's new, that's not new kind of thing. So
I will say I've not seen this movie. I probably don't plan to watch this movie, but I will say from the reviews I've read from a lot of people who are big fans of the original, apparently there were quite a few changes, and some changes that people really don't like in the movie. So while there are some scenes that are like direct copies, there are some scenes that they've taken some very.
I know there's one scene that I remember because it's memed like crazy or gift like crazy, where there's like a point where Lilo is pointing at Stitch, blaming it on him, and Stitch is pointing at her, blaming it on her. That's not in this. Because I always thought that was a funny scene back in the animated. I know that's not in this movie. But this is a live-action film, except for, obviously, Stitch and the aliens. But one thing that we said, even when we saw the first trailer for this back in, I want to say it was January with the Super Bowl, Stitch actually looks really fucking good in this movie. Way better than he has any right to. And we're saying that he looks better than the fucking Lion King movies, which are like, oh, it's photorealistic, except they have no souls. Stitch looks like he has a soul in this movie. Stitch obviously is a full-on alien, so I mean, that's the thing, is that there are aliens in this movie. They look good, but they don't look as good as Stitch. But I was really quite amazed at how well Stitch actually looked in the film, and he looked very much like he could be a real character in the film and not just like a computer-generated character. There are still certain parts, and I will say it's more towards the young actress who plays Lilo, which is, I want to say it's Maya Kealoha. I'm probably going to butcher these names, so I apologize. Where she like hugs Stitch, and you can tell that she's like pretending to hug something that's not there, because like the hands like not resting on Stitch's head as well. And I'm like, all right, well, she's like 6. Like, it's not her fault. But like, you tell, it's like, okay, she's clearly just doing this. And they're like, yeah, Stitch is right there. It's like, just give her a Stitch doll and just let her hug that, make it look a little more realistic. But outside of that, though, the film actually looks really good visually. Like I said, there are other aliens in the film, the ones that are like hunting them down. They do look more cartoony than Stitch does, but that's not necessarily a negative. You can only do what you can do with this film. Lilo and Stitch, it's very chaotic. I mean, you're following a little kid with an alien that basically wreaks havoc, and there's a lot of yelling and just chaos through the movie, which my problem was I watched it with a headache. Probably not the best time to watch Lilo and Stitch is when you have a headache, because it's just a very loud fucking movie. But what I will say is, in terms of the characters, like I said, I apologize if I'm saying her name wrong. Maya Kealoha, who plays Lilo, she's adorable. She does a very good job as Lilo. She does a very good job playing off of a computer animated Stitch, which obviously is not really there. I think she does a solid job with that, except for when she's hugging Stitch at one point in the film. But I think she's got a very bright future. I just might like I'm putting you on the spot here, so you're probably not gonna remember it. Just like the voice actress for Moana, she did really great in Moana, and she has a bright future. What was her name?
I'm not sure pronunciation. It's like Auli Cravalho or something like that.
Yeah. Also, the actress who plays Nani, the older sister, Sydney Agudong, or something like that. I really liked her. I thought she was. That's how you say it. I know you laughed because I said dong. It's A.
No, I was just looking at the cast list. I thought it was funny that Zach Galifianakis is one of the easier names to pronounce in this movie.
He really fucking is. But yeah, I thought she did a great job as Nani. I really gravitate towards her as a performer. I'm really excited to see what she does from here. Both these two actors are relatively new. I went and tried to look up their movie list, and they really didn't have much of anything, especially the young Maya. But I think both of them do a real good job of basically portraying those sisters, developing that relationship with them. I think they both play off of Stitch very, very well. Like you said, Zach Galifianakis and Billy Magnuson play Jumba and Pleakley, who are the two aliens who are hunting Stitch on the planet. They're basically using Zach Galifianakis and Billy Magnuson as like body covers kind of thing, not the actors themselves, but like they're on the island and they touch them as people, and then they're basically using them as cover. Billy Magnuson is having fun, and he's one actor who I actually really enjoy in these where he kind of plays stupid or just overtly delightful. Like he did it in Game Night. And even in freaking Roadhouse, like he's cheesy and over the top, but it's kind of his wheelhouse, and I think he actually does a really good job in this. Zach Galifianakis is actually kind of playing the serious straight man role, which is not his wheelhouse. Yeah, he's not the comic one. He's thrown in comedic situations, but he is not. He is the serious like one of this, which is very weird to see him like that. I don't know if it quite works for him. I don't think it does. I kind of wanted him to be a little more like Billy Magnuson zany, and he wasn't. So I was like excited to see him, but then I was like, you're kind of the least enjoyable part of this film. Not anything on him. It's just you see him as this one point, and you're used to him being like this, and then he plays it this way, and you either are on the board or you're not, and I really wasn't. Courtney B. Vance is wasted in this movie. He plays Cobra Bubbles is his name, but he's a real life person. That's like a CIA agent in this movie. I feel like he had a bigger part in the animated film, if I remember. I feel like he's not utilized to Courtney B. Vance's potential of what a great actor he actually is. I think he was wasted in the film. The rest of the cast around him, we got Tia Carrere, who I think she's actually really good in this. I haven't seen her in forever. She plays like the social worker in the movie.
Her and Jason Scott Lee were both voices in the original, and so they gave him small parts in this too.
Yeah, and Hannah Waddingham, she plays the main alien, like the boss alien in the movie. Like so she only has like 2-3 scenes in the film, but she's great in it. But outside of the cast, the story itself, like I said, it's a chaotic film, but it has a good amount of heart in the movie. I didn't hate it. I didn't like love it. But I've also never been a big Lilo and Stitch fan like a lot of people are. I think people who are fans of the animated film are going to be happy with this. I don't know. I don't think it's going to make people love the live action more than the animated, which I think is kind of what Disney always tries to do, is to try to go, hey, forget the animated, just go with the live action. Most people are like, fuck you. Live action is 1,000 times better. But I think it's a solid film. I think it's going to make a shitload of money.
Oh, it is.
It's probably going to be the number 1 or number 2 film of the summer.
We both
And I think
number 1, I think, didn't we?
I think we both picked it number 1 or number 2. I want to say
you had it 2.
I think I gave Jurassic World Rebirth the 1 spot, and Lilo was 2, and I think you did the swap of them. And I think it already did like 135 million this weekend, so it definitely started off strong. And I think it being at least decent and not shitty is definitely going to help it grow from there, because Stitch is such a lovable character and fun character to watch that I think the only thing that can rival it will be Toothless, which comes out in 3 weeks, I believe, with How to Train Your Dragon.
That's what I was looking at. What the next competition is. It has another 3 weekends. Well, 2 full free weekends, and then on the 3rd weekend, How to Train Your Dragon comes out.
Which I think it'll be the first real
Elio
thing.
The week after that. Elio's going to get buried by these 2 films. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be the battle between Stitch and Toothless in the summer. It really is, and then the superhero movies. But yeah, like I said, decent. I would say in terms of the live action rankings, it's definitely in the upper half, definitely in the top 10 of the live actions, but that's not saying much since we don't like a lot of the live action Disney ones. But yeah, I gave it a solid 3.5 for the performances and how good Stitch looks. It's not something I probably will really ever go back and rewatch, but I think if you're wondering, going to theaters this week, yes, you should go see Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning instead. But if you have kids, if you're wondering if you're going to be able to suffer through this, I think the answer is yes. Unless you have a headache like me, you're probably not going to enjoy it as much. But I think you guys will be able to survive it. But yeah, 3.5 stars for Lilo and Stitch. What was your next film?
I'll go with went off Friendship. Because that one actually just opened. It expanded this weekend to more theaters, but it's still fairly limited release. Last week it was even more limited, but I managed to see it because I happened to be in Chicago at the time. This is a comedy, kind of a dark comedy, from Tim Robinson, who I know he was on SNL and he has his own show, which I've never watched the show. I've seen some clips of it, but I'm not that familiar with it. I know his kind of style of comedy. And Paul Rudd's in it, Kate Mara's in it, Jack Dylan Grazer. This is a kind of an awkward film about this awkward guy, of course, Tim Robinson, who Paul Rudd, him and his wife moved to town and moved into his neighborhood, and he basically becomes friends with them and kind of takes them in, and then there's Paul Rudd starts to realize kind of how weird this dude is, and basically wants to cut off the friendship, basically wants to call off relationships. I think we'd be better if we're just not friends. But of course, Tim Robinson's really clingy and it gets really awkward. And it's very much that Tim Robinson kind of awkward comedy to it. And Paul Rudd is essentially, early on, he feels like he's playing exactly his character from Anchorman, which is Brian Fantana, something like that. He very much feels like the same guy. He's a weather reporter in this movie. But he kind of has the same mustache. He almost has kind of that same swagger and personality to him. He's supposed to be like the cool guy. He's in a band, outside of his job. And so, Tim Robinson.
Does he play the bass? Does he slap at the bass?
No, he's playing the guitar. Unfortunately,
that would have been a great turn.
But that's basically what the story is about. It's basically it's friendship. Paul Rudd tries to end it, and it's kind of like not quite a single white female kind of situation, but he's clingy and awkward and weird. It was all right. It's A24, so there's that. But I honestly thought I was going to actually enjoy this one, but it's almost felt like it was a little bit. It's really light on plot. It felt very short. There isn't a lot that happens in it. It's more just kind of like, here's a situation and here's some awkwardness. Okay, and now the movie's over. And I feel like Kate Mara, first of all, is wasted. I feel like her whole career has been wasted. I feel like I thought she'd be bigger than she was. Maybe it's because Fantastic Four flop. I don't know. But she hasn't even done that much work in the last several years. At least not that I've seen. Nothing major. And I like her, so I'm a little mad that she was kind of wasted in this movie. Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd. He's always amusing. Tim Robinson, I don't know if he's quite my flavor of comedy.
He's not mine, and that's literally the only thing keeping me from watching this movie. I don't find him appealing at all.
There were times when it was very funny, but then there's a lot of times when it either wasn't funny or it was, but it's one of those things like just keep going with it. They keep trying to, bang the joke in, and it's just like, okay, we get it. Now you've ruined it because you tried to drag it out too long.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of stuff that felt like that. So, I mean, I gave it 3 stars in the end. It was fine. I'll never watch it again, but I was honestly kind of disappointed because I thought Paul Rudd, actually the trailer for this I thought looked intriguing. Um, it's kind of my flavor of kind of a dark comedy to it. But ultimately I was a little bit disappointed.
Do you think if it went total single white female, do you think it would have won you over more if they actually went that far with it, that he was like fucking like insane, like murderous, crazy
I think
kind
it
of
actually
thing?
would have been a better film for that. I think it tried to kind of stick in that, like, awkward kind of
Like
phase.
Cable Guy?
It kind of stuck in that same kind of Cable Guy. I've heard this compared a lot to Cable Guy, yes. So I think it's very much has kind of that Cable Guy feel to it,
But not as good because it's not
except
Broderick
that
and Perry.
except there's not so much the broad comedy sequences like there are in Cable Guy. So this one, it's like, I think if they had taken that turn where he like went complete psycho on it, it would have been a very different movie. But I think it would have been a better movie. But I don't know. I guess maybe from what I know, the few people I've talked to that have seen this that do enjoy Tim Robinson, they love this. So I guess if you're a fan of that, check it out.
My next movie has been out for a little while, but it took forever for it to get out on digital, and that's Queen of the Ring. This is a film. I'm trying to look at when it actually got released. It was like in January or February. But like it wasn't released in theaters near me, and basically it finally dropped on digital. I want to say on the 13th of May. So I finally got to watch it. Like I said, me being a former pro wrestler and a pro wrestling fan for life, I was immediately drawn to this film. It follows the story of Mildred Burke, one of, if not the first real professional wrestler that was a woman. She kind of started back in pro wrestling when it was illegal for women to fight. And so she basically had to kind of be like a carny wrestler where she would show up on like carnivals, then be like, get in the ring with Mildred, and if you can, stand 5 minutes with her or pin her, you win, $5, because that was literally the only way they were allowed to have her do it until she eventually got popular enough and big enough where she could actually like wrestle, with other women and even men to a certain point, but it was still illegal in like so many states. But she was kind of the first one. A lot of people like to say it's, the Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young, but she was around before Mae Young was. Mae Young is actually in this movie. The rest, not the actual wrestler because she's dead, but the character of Mae Young, and she was kind of like an up and comer and kind of was under Mildred's wings. So Mildred really is kind of like the first woman pro wrestler. It's starring Emily Brett Rickards, which I only know her from Arrow on the CW. That's literally the only thing I know her from, which I enjoyed her for what she was on that. Her character got a little whiny near the end, but that was more of a writing thing, not an acting thing for her. But she plays Mildred. I think she's great in this. I think she does a great job with the character. Also, Josh Lucas, that's another actor that I personally enjoy. Tyler Posey, I enjoy from Teen Wolf. He's in this. Walton Goggins is in this movie, which I wasn't prepared for and was happy to see Walton Goggins in it. There's a couple female wrestlers I know, such as Toni Storm and I think it's Camellia. She used to be with AEW. She's not anymore. Also, Mickie James has got a very small part in this. There's a few female wrestlers that people will know in this movie. The wrestling in it. Oh, yeah, Deborah Ann Wool from Daredevil. She's in this as well. Anyone who is a fan of Heels, the TV show with Stephen Amell, Kelly Berglund, who people will know her from in Heels, she's in this also. So like I said, pretty solid cast. No like over-the-top great actors, except for probably Walton Goggins, but pretty solid cast all around. There was never any real bad acting in this movie. The wrestling, it's passable. It's not anything special, but once again, this is also like the 1930s and 50s and stuff like that. And wrestling back then was very molassesly slow, unless you're the Macho Man Randy Savage. So it wasn't like they could really do like a lot of amazing, awesome, like they're doing certain moves where I'm like, that move wasn't around back then kind of thing. Like that definitely was not a move back in the 50s. So you kind of have to throw that stuff away. But like I said, that's like the pro wrestler in me was like, I know that move wasn't around in the 50s kind of thing, but it was enjoyable. They do kind of take some liberties with the true story compared to the real life thing, which all biopics do. So you can't really knock it for that. But I think for what it was, which felt very much like a small indie film doing the story, I think it actually did a really good job with what it was. I was thoroughly entertained throughout, or I wouldn't say I'd be like, it's very much a female Rocky, but pro wrestling in a way. Except that she's fucking Apollo Creed through the whole fucking movie for the most part. But it's a very good film. I think Emily Bett Rickards does a great job in this. I think she's someone that a lot of people overlook just because she's a CW girl. I think she has potential. And I think she does a great job in this overall. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm a lot harder on wrestling films compared to a lot of people because I hold them to a different standard because of my background with it. And this did good enough to get 4 stars out of me. I do think it's a very solid film. I don't know if it's going to be for everybody because, like I said, it's not present day wrestling, and the wrestling is stiff in a way and not as great choreographed, but for the time, it actually is very, very good.
So it's a good reflection of the actual wrestling at that time?
Yeah, it's a very good reflection, but it's not like you're going to be watching this outside of like probably the very last match. They'll be like, oh, they wrestled for 60 minutes, but you watch like 45 seconds of the match. And it's like, oh, they basically got in the ring and she put her in an arm bar and that was it. And it's like, that wasn't 45 minutes. It's like, but they
back
like,
then she probably held the arm bar for 45 minutes.
Apparently, yeah. But like I said, I think in terms of the story and what they tell, I think it's very good. Like I said, I think the cast does a great job with it. But it's not going to be flashy or anything because, like I said, they have a budget. It's an independent film, so it's not going to be like big. But I think for what they do, I think they utilize what they got with their budget very, very well. I think they got a great cast around it. I think the story's done really well. I think they handle the wrestling and the arena work of it very well without having to blow a big budget. So I think they did a really good job with it, and I give it 4 stars. Yeah.
All right.
What was your next movie?
I will talk about Clown in a Cornfield.
God damn it.
What?
The movie that you've been wanting me to watch, and I'm like, no, Brian, I'm not watching this fucking movie.
Well, I only want you to watch this because you love clowns so much.
Yeah, I'm not watching this movie.
No, Clown in a Cornfield is a movie that, until I don't think I even knew this movie was coming out until a couple months ago when I was like, I think might have been, actually, it was when I was doing my year most anticipated, like in December. I'm like, what is this Clown in a Cornfield movie? It sounded weird, sounds like some straight to video thing. But no, it's a theatrical film. It's apparently based on a book. It's actually, I think, a trilogy of books. But it's directed by Eli Craig, who is the guy who did Tucker and Dale versus Evil. He also did, I think, Netflix or Hulu called Little Evil with Adam Scott. So I'm looking forward to this. The trailers looked intriguing. I like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. This one, it's definitely has some comedy in it. Although I wouldn't call it it's not a horror comedy in the way that like Tucker and Dale is.
Is it like so bad that it's funny?
No. It's just trying to be a straightforward, a horror film for the most part, like a teen horror flick. Okay. But there's definitely funny moments in it. I mean, the only 2 actors in this I think I recognize, Will Sasso, who is clearly a comedic actor, although he's not super comedic in this one. It's only he might have a couple funny lines, mostly he's serious. And then Kevin Durand is in this, and we always love Kevin Durand and everything he's in.
Is he the clown?
I'm not going to tell you that kind of thing.
If he's the clown, I might watch it.
I'm not going to answer that question for you.
All right.
Maybe offline I'll answer that question for you. Okay. So this is a movie that I went into, and it didn't blow me away, but I didn't hate it either. It's the movie. It's kind of, it's got a super paper thin plot. It's pretty much kind of a by the numbers slasher film. And it does feel like it's rushed at some point. Like the movie kind of starts out, and then all of a sudden it's like you feel like you're in the finale, and then the finale just drags on for a long time. And the tone is very inconsistent because there are times it gets kind of funny. There's other times it gets super serious and dark. Other times where it gets like strangely kind of offbeat and funny. And it kind of has an inconsistent tone to it. But I will say, for a mindless, entertaining, 90-minute blood splatter fest, it was fine. It's got some good kills, some good bloody kills. It's definitely, it's not like a PG-13 watered down for the teenage audience. It's definitely kind of hardcore R bloody horror. So
does it go Terrifier or
what's that?
Does it go Terrifier gore or no?
Oh no, nothing like that. Nothing like that. I'm just saying it's not like toned down for PG-13. You're seeing, heads get cut off or people getting cut open, and
So we're like in the horror spectrum. We're like in Jason, like Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's the kind of thing like would I recommend it? I wouldn't go out of your way to see it, but it's worth checking out. If it pops up on Netflix or something, go ahead and give it a watch. I gave it 3 stars.
3 stars. All right, my next one we both saw, and that is G20. It was on Prime, and it's got Viola Davis. She's basically playing the president, and it's not anything we haven't seen before. It's another
Die Hard movie.
It's Die Hard, but with the president, basically saving everybody. It's like the president goes to the G20 summit, and terrorists take over. And everyone gets captured except for her and like her bodyguard and like I think like the Prime Minister of England and some other people. And she basically has to, from the outside in go and like save, her family and everyone else and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's not like breaking the mold in terms of a plot. You've seen this plot redone over and over and over and over again. Except this time we got Viola Davis, who we both love. And also Anthony Anderson plays her husband. And for me, the big thing for me outside of Viola Davis was Anthony Starr. Or is it Anthony or Anthony?
It's Anthony. Yeah.
It's Anthony. Anthony, no H. Anthony Starr, Homelander. The man from The Boys. He's the main bad guy. He's the main terrorist who plays Rutledge. And that was the big selling point for me. Because I have been, even before The Boys, and Brian knows this, I have had a champion, like holding a championship title to Anthony Starr ever since I saw him in Banshee, which is a fantastic, like, 4-season show that I think is on, like, Max now that you can watch. It used to be, like, on Cinemax or something. It's great. You should check that out. But now he's Homelander, and everyone knows him as fucking Homelander. But he's the bad guy in this. So that was basically my selling point outside of Viola Davis. I thought it was solid for what it was. It was, a solid action streaming film. Like it's definitely not bad. I would say it's more towards the good than the average for me. I was never bored. I was never like while watching it. I was intrigued the whole way through. I think Viola Davis is fucking Viola Davis. Like, does she ever not bring it in any movie she's in? Like she's gonna be there. The problem is that the rest of the cast around her is not as strong. Anthony Anderson is decent in his role. I think Anthony Starr is, if you like him, then you're gonna like him in this movie. Ramon Rodriguez, I know he's on like the TV show Will Trent. I really don't know him in much else out of that. He's pretty solid in the film as well. The action outside of like maybe like the final fight doesn't really do a whole lot for me throughout the film. But I think it's a solid action film. It's definitely something that like you could throw on while you're doing stuff in the house. And I think you would be marginally entertained throughout, maybe stop at certain points to watch it. And the rest of the time you can probably just keep doing your stuff and, having it play in the background like you do a lot of movies. I give it 3 stars. Like I say, it was better than I expected it to be, but I also wasn't expecting much.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for this and I was like, okay, that's interesting. Cause I mean, I'm always up to at least check out a good Die Hard ripoff. And this would be the president, which of course that's been done before too, with like, Olympus Has Fallen. Well, it wasn't the president actually. Well, he was anyway.
Yeah, like that and White House Down. It was both of them weren't the president.
Viola Davis in this was actually interesting because I'm not sure if she's ever done an action role. I mean, she's been in things like Suicide Squad.
Woman King.
Has she ever done action? I don't know.
The Woman King.
The woman. Oh yeah, the Woman King. I forgot about that. Yeah. I guess I was thinking more like guns and things, but
no.
But I mean, so I was intrigued.
Technically, you have Steve McQueen movie, Widows. That was technically action. Drama action.
Yeah,
technically, but yeah.
But so I was intrigued. I checked it out. And it's exactly what I expected. It's basically if you said, "Hey, let's make a Die Hard knockoff for streaming for Netflix or in this case Amazon." This is exactly what I would expect. It was, like you said, entertaining enough. I also gave it 3 stars. It was fine for a watch. Everybody did a good job in it. Anthony Starr, I enjoyed him. He gets to use his native accent and everything instead of trying to hide it. So that was fun. Although I do worry he's going to get typecast as villains. He needs to play a good role around here somewhere.
Watch Banshee, man.
Viola Davis was good. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's also not surprising. I mean, just don't go expecting to be surprised by anything, because it's not subtle at all. It's I said in my review, in the first 20 minutes, you're going to predict the big twists of who's involved, and you're going to predict most of the major plot points throughout the movie just from the first 20 minutes, because their foreshadowing is anything but subtle. But it's, like you said, it's still enjoyable enough to check out on a rainy summer day.
What was your next movie?
Next I will go with The Surfer. The Surfer is another Nick Cage, going insane movie. This is, and a lot of his stuff, like, you never know with Nick Cage anymore which ones are going to be like the typical VOD just kind of crap, which ones are going to be like the really good movies he's in, like everything. What's it called? The unbearable weight of massive talent.
Oh, the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Or something that is going to be like this, where it's weird but still gets a theatrical release. And so I never know what to expect from his movies anymore. But the trailers, again,
or Pig or Gunslinger, or
it's so all over the place. You never know what to expect from any one of his movies. Could fit in any one of those categories. You don't know. Yeah. So I saw the trailer for this one, and it saw it was getting a theatrical release. That's already a plus right there. It looks like Nick Cage getting to kind of go crazy. In this case, it's because he's out in the sun. He's in Australia. He's kind of baking out in the sun. He's got this basically kind of a feud going with the leader of this bunch of punks on the beach, but they're kind of led by Julian McMahon. So he's kind of losing his shit and going crazier and crazier.
That's a name that I haven't heard in a long time.
So, but honestly, I went in with kind of not high expectations, but I thought I would enjoy this one. I came away pretty disappointed, because really it's like they kind of established the situation, and then it just kind of sits there and marinates in it until the end, which the end gets kind of so wacky and unbelievable because it takes this turn. You're like, what? I don't buy this for 1 second. And so it's kind of like, I left disappointed by it. I gave it 2.5 stars. If you like Nick Cage, as you imagine Nick Cage, where he's just kind of gets to kind of start to go crazy, you'll get at least enjoy that aspect of it. But I would not go out of my way to watch this movie either.
I feel like with him, like he'll go and he'll make like weird ones like Gunslinger, or the one where he was like the devil with Joel Kinnaman, right with the devil. Yeah. Sympathy of the Devil. And then it's be like, okay, we know what worked. Mandy worked. Okay, well, we can't do Mandy, so let's do something that's like Mandy. Surfer. Okay, you're Surfer, but it's Mandy, which is like Mandy was the psychedelic acid trip that marinated for way too fucking long. It allowed Nick to go full Nick, and at the very end, it's over the top, batshit crazy, and you're either on board with it or you're not, which sounds exactly what this is, but he's a surfer.
Largely, yeah.
So that's basically what that is.
Kind of a constant purple color palette of Mandy. You get kind of a constant orange palette of the heat and the beach in Australia.
So maybe if you're a big fan of Mandy, you might be okay with Surfer.
Maybe it doesn't go quite as crazy as that. It just kind of marinates in this kind of level of like, just him losing his shit. It's not going like insane, although there are a couple scenes like that. But yeah,
we gotta let Nick Cage go full Nick Cage at one point.
Yeah, it's like there's tiers of Nick Cage. There's the ones you were talking about, like the Sympathy for the Devil, that which, and Gunslingers. It's like I need a paycheck, Nick Cage, between real movies. There's the Mandys and this, which are kind of they're real movies. They're theatrically released. There's some actual craft put into them, but they're still kind of not the blockbusters. And there's the big ones that Nick Cage pops up in still. So he's got this weird career where he just kind of does everything.
It's almost like, how many weeks does it take me to shoot this one? Okay, I'll shoot this one in between this one and this one because I got nothing else.
Feels like. Yeah.
All right, my next one is another one that we both saw. You saw this one way before me, though, and that is Hulu's Summer of '69. Stars Sam Morelos, I think is her name.
Morelos? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Morelos and Chloe Fineman. I know Sam from That 90s Show, which I actually enjoyed That 90s Show. I know a lot of people are like, it sucks compared to That 70s Show. Well, That 70s Show was fucking That 70s Show, guys. I also like that.
The funny thing is, I started watching this and I'm like, I know that girl from somewhere. Where do I know her from? And then I totally thought that she was the girl in Birds of Prey. And I'm like, nope, not her. Just Brian being racist. I don't know.
No, not her at all. No, she was in That 90s Show. Chloe Fineman, I'm honestly, she's not an SNL person, is she?
Yeah.
Is she an SNL person? Okay. I always get her and oh god, fucking now that I said it, I'm not gonna be able to help you. The daughter of actor from Something About Mary and that I can't stand. I know that's not gonna help you at all. She's on The Bear, which you don't watch. Anyway, I went down like an old person. You know that guy from that one thing, and he was in Schitt's Creek and Something About Mary. He's in How I Met Your Mother. Scary Movie 2. Strong Hand.
Oh, Chris Elliott. Oh, you're talking about Abby Elliott.
Abby Elliott. I always get Chloe Fineman and Abby Elliott mixed up, even though I think they're like 10 plus years apart in age. Thank you for joining us on that journey, guys, for Abby Elliott for no reason.
Unravel live. Okay.
Yes, exactly. A strong hand. I had to do that to get you to get it right away. But yeah, I always get those two kind of like mixed up. But basically, the main story of Summer of '69 is it follows this girl, Abby, played by Sam, and she basically is in love with this boy that she's had a crush on forever, and he just became single. And she asks this one guy in high school, like, you know, what is Max like? Like, how can I get in? He goes, he loves 69. And so naturally she's like, I don't know jack shit about sex. And she's like they call it glitch, but she's like a video game, like Twitch, like person. Like she makes a shitload of money off of playing games. And so she's like, I will pay this stripper, played by Chloe Fineman, named Santa Monica, to teach me over the next week on how to be good at sex, so that way Max will like me. That is the plot. It's very much a 90s, early 2000s kind of plot. I like Sam as an actress. I don't know if I necessarily loved her in this, and I think it was more or less like, I don't want to say that the writing didn't give her enough funny moments in the movie, because it does. I just felt like there was something missing in the plot. And I don't know if you agree with me or not. I think it might have been more scenes with the Max character, just so that way you were bought in, because it was like, oh, Max. Don't see Max again for like another hour or so. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's all this character development of Max in the last like 5 minutes of the film. I do think the subplot, which is for Santa Monica, she's a stripper and her strip club is about to go under. So she's trying to make this money so she can buy the strip club from Charlie fucking Day, who's got such a small part in this movie. But I was happy when he showed up, but he's only in like 2 fucking scenes. I do think their relationship was fine through the film. And it has moments in it, but at the end of it, I was just kind of like, meh, the whole way through. It's like it wants to be raunchy, but it never pushes that envelope because it doesn't want to offend anybody, or it doesn't want to go over the top, because it's still trying to be, like, clearly it's R, but it's like it wants to fight to be PG-13 without fully going R with it. Like, you're in a strip club, but no one's ever naked in the strip club kind of thing. And it wants to talk about sex, but doesn't really want to go past this breaking point. And so it's like, it teeters whether it wants to be what it wants to be and what it feels like it needs to be for the current day's climate. I feel like if it chose to go full bore raunchy like the early 2000s, I think it would have been better. But it teetering on this like line of trying to be safe and not trying to go over the top, I think is what hindered it. Because I feel like I think that maybe that's what was missing, was that like the flow of the comedy just was not in tune the whole way through. What were your thoughts?
No, I know you everything you said was exactly how I kind of thought of this movie. It's like it feels like it wants to be a raunchy comedy, but it like doesn't want to go too far, because like you said, with today's climate, it's like, you know, it's like people, you know, making certain jokes about sex is not PC, or, you know, showing nudity. You don't want to show, you know, you don't need to show women's breasts or any kind of nudity in you know, a movie to be funny, and people, I think, get offended too easily. And so I think they tried to make this comedy in like a raunchy situation, but they toned down the raunchiness, like you said, not all the way down to like being PG-13, but it's kind of like, it feels like it's been neutered to some extent.
Outside of like cuss words and like saying certain sex words, it could get away with being PG-13.
It probably could, yeah. I mean, I suppose they might, slap it with like sexual situations kind of thing and mark it and give it a harder rating. But as far there's nothing really, it's not over the top. There's nothing hardcore, it's not American Pie kind of thing going on here. And it very much feels like a comedy in today's climate because it feels, again, I've said this in the past couple, this feels like a streaming movie. It feels like this is what a comedy is today when they put it on streaming, when it feels like it's not, they have not put in the, I don't know if it's the rewrites or the work or the money or whatever they need to do. It does not feel like it ever could have been a theatrical film. If it had been like you said, a hardcore R sex comedy, it could have been, I think, something more. But now I don't know how much of it was in the design, how much of it was in the budgetary things. I don't know. But it came out just kind of feeling, like you said, just kind of,
I don't know if it was a full, like a first time director, but it felt very much like
Juliet Bell directed this.
Who?
Juliet Bell, the actress. This is her first.
Yeah.
This is her first film.
Yeah, there's one scene with her in this movie that like goes off into this because like Sam's character, she like kind of goes into her own like imagination and it goes off on tangent somewhere. And Julian Bell's scene goes off on that tangent, and it's at that point, I was like, "This movie's not good. This movie has a lot to like work on to like get me to turn and actually enjoy this movie." It almost got to that point, but then the movie ended. But yeah, I don't know if Julian Bell's directed before or not.
No, well, at least not in film. I don't know if she's done anything on TV, but this is her first film.
It feels very much like, let's give her a chance. Let's have her do this, but don't push it too far, Julian. Like, do this.
It looks like she also is credited as a co-writer, so I don't know.
I feel like, especially with Julian Bell's comedy, she is a raunchy person, and I feel like she would have gone over that line and done what we wanted her to do, but maybe she was held back because it was Hulu. I don't know, but knowing her, especially from Workaholics, like fuck, she has the ability to have done this movie the way it probably should have been done. And I felt like she was kind of maybe a studio thing, like held back. It felt like that she was kind of handcuffed on this. I feel like she's better than what we got out of this week. I gave it 2.5 because I saw the potential, but it just didn't reach it.
I gave it 3 because it was fine. I didn't regret watching it. I enjoyed parts of it, like you said. And Sam Morelos, I thought that she was a good actress. I have not seen 90 Show, so this is, as far as I know, my first exposure to her, and I liked her as an actress. Chloe Fineman, I usually find fairly amusing. She had some funny parts in here, but there's some parts that didn't work. I will say my biggest disappointment with the movie is that I saw in the cast list Charlie Day and Natalie
Morales, and they are
kind of barely in it. I mean, Natalie has a couple scenes, but she's really barely in it. And Charlie Day,
she has about the same amount of scenes as Charlie is in. I bet if you stopwatch them, Natalie's in it for maybe 3 minutes longer, but less scenes than Charlie's in.
Yeah, but they both total to about 8 minutes of screen time. So
yeah, they're both not utilized.
I was a little disappointed. I was happy to see them when we did, but I would like to see more of them.
Yeah, they were definitely not utilized. What's your next movie?
I will go with I'm going to go with a movie that's not even released yet until next weekend. I got to see it at one of these secret screenings they had where you supposedly don't know what movie it is.
Oh, the secret movie of the Secret Movie Monday kind of thing.
This is Bring Her Back. Bring Her Back is from the directors of Michael Philippou and Danny Philippou. They are the guys who did Talk to Me, which they kind of really made a big splash with that film. I know Sean did not enjoy it as much as me, and some people are over the top about this movie. I really did enjoy that movie quite a bit. I think that while I will fully acknowledge as Sean does that there are some plot issues and some things. I think that movie really showed that these guys are some directors to watch. I think that the look of the movie was great. I think the style of the movie was great. I think they, were able to have some comedy and things in it, but it was definitely a horror movie first, and there was disturbing imagery, and I thought that it was very well directed and it looked good. So I was looking forward to see what these directors do next. So they come with this movie, Bring Her Back, which the trailer didn't blow me away. It actually looks like every, single supernatural movie that comes out these days, Conjuring, Sinister, Insidious, all that kind of shit just kind of blurs together for me. This felt like another one of those kind of movies. There aren't really any names. It's Sally Hawkins from like Shape of Water. She's, I think, maybe the only recognizable name in this, at least for me. I didn't recognize anybody else in the movie. Uh, I was really quite disappointed by this movie. Like I said, I really look forward to see what these guys did next. I was not impressed by this. I thought it was kind of slow. It didn't really go anywhere. Um, the story is one of I didn't care about at all. I didn't think the scares were scary. I think when things did kind of ramp up in the third act, I think that it was, it wasn't enough to kind of save the movie, even if there were some, like, again, there was some disturbing imagery. But whereas in Talk to Me, it kind of worked with the story. Here it was just like, let's just throw in something, throw in a jump scare because we need to scare people, because this movie is really just seems like a family drama of some kind. So I was pretty disappointed by this. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. The acting's fine. The cinematography, things like that, there were some positives to it, but overall the story didn't do anything for me at all. And I really hope that this is just like kind of sophomore slump kind of thing, and not an indication that they were one hit wonder and they don't really have it in them to direct anything more.
And I totally called this during the summer movie preview that this movie was not going to land. Now, it could very well land for everybody else when it gets released this upcoming week, but I said it right then. I was like, this doesn't look like, everyone's going to be thinking this is going to be the next big movie, and the next big movie is probably going to be Weapons, which comes out at the end of the summer. Because I was not buying this one as one, and obviously, like Brian said, I'm not a fan of Talk to Me.
Now, to be fair, it has an average of 3.7 on Letterboxd. It's actually more than anything else is rated 4 stars by more than anything else, and it's got some 5 stars in there and 4.5. So a lot of people like this. It just didn't work for me though.
All right, my next movie we both watched. Also, I think I watched it first and then kind of prepared you for it, and my preparing for you didn't win you over. And that is Apple TV's Fountain of Youth, which came out this past weekend. I will admit, and Brian has been very happy to point it out every time now, that over the last few years, I have become a big Guy Ritchie fan. And I used to shit on Guy Ritchie all the fucking time because I couldn't stand his ass. But literally his last, 3-4 films, I've been like, I fucking love this. Guy Ritchie is actually winning me over. Yay. But yeah, he did this. This is a movie that just honestly felt very much like a Netflix film where it just showed up out of nowhere and was like, what the fuck is this movie? Like, this actually got like a good cast to it, and like this is kind of like in the wheelhouse of what me and Brian like. And it just kind of dropped a trailer, and it's like, oh yeah, it comes out in like 3 weeks. And it's like, oh yeah, and Guy Ritchie directed it. I was like, where the fuck did this movie get made? Like, I don't even know what's going on. You got John Krasinski, who I love, Natalie Portman, who we both love, Isa Gonzalez, who Brian fucking adores, Domhnall Gleeson, we both like. It's like that, those 4 right there, and then the story, which is very much like a Uncharted, Indiana Jones, National Treasure-esque kind of story, which, once again, kind of our wheelhouse. And it got dropped on Apple, which Apple tends to have a good resume with their movies, because usually it's going to give you a theatrical release as well as a streaming release. But this one just kind of showed up and was just kind of there. Now, Brian didn't really have any confidence in the movie when he saw the trailers. Like, this just kind of looks blah. But I was like, no. It's Guy Ritchie. He's on fire with me lately. It's got Krasinski and Portman and Gonzalez and Gleason. Like, I'm excited to check this out. First 20 minutes is rough. It's rough. And I warned Brian too. I was like, the first 20 minutes feels very rushed. Now, if this was like a sequel, I would have been okay with these first 20 minutes, because it drops you literally right into this character of Luke Perdue, played by John Krasinski, and he's immediately like on a chase, and he's immediately being chased by people, and it's a high-speed chase and all this kind of stuff. And we're like, I don't even know who the fuck this guy is. I don't know why I should care about this, outside of that it's the actor John Krasinski, and I like John Krasinski. But you shouldn't have to win me over because it's the actor. You need to win me over based off of the character, because eventually it's John Krasinski, I love John Krasinski, is going to fade away after 30, 40 minutes, because at that point I need to start buying into the film. And that first 20 minutes, man, it felt very much like the second act of a movie, or a sequel that's starting off hot after the first film that we already had. It isn't until it's almost like they did the second act first and the first act in the second act, because after the first 20 minutes, it actually does start to slow the fuck down and start to try to develop these characters, which you should have done to start the movie. It still doesn't do it very well, but once again, these are likable actors who are not playing unlikable characters. It's morally a script problem. It has nothing to do with any of the performances. I think Isa Gonzalez is fun in the film. Krasinski's having fun, basically being a Nathan Drake, Indiana Jones type character. Natalie Portman feels a little stuck in the mud because she's having to kind of play like the stickler. But halfway through the film, she finally kind of lets loose a little bit. But I've seen Natalie Portman have more fun in movies than this, and I thought she should have had more fun in this, but didn't look like it. Domhnall is fine in the film, but he's also playing kind of like a sickly reserved character through it. The set pieces aren't bad. They're not great, but they're not bad throughout. Stanley Tucci pops in for like a fucking scene for some reason. Like, are they trying to set this up as like a franchise? Because why would you bring Stanley Tucci in to play this character? What's that?
Yeah, absolutely trying to set up for a franchise. Even left a big piece at the end.
Exactly. So I was like, all of a sudden he pops like, where the fuck did Stanley Tucci show up? Like, because it was one of these where I was like, because I'm watching it at home and I'm like losing interest while watching. I was like, can I be doing something else while watching this? And all of a sudden I look, I'm like, when the fuck did Stanley Tucci show up? He just started talking to Isa Gonzalez. I'm like, when the fuck did this happen? The movie is kind of like what I said on some of the like G20. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just kind of there. And if you had a like relative no-name cast like Summer of '69 or even like some other films we talked about where you didn't have these big names behind it, I'd probably be like, it's an indie film. It's doing what it's doing. But it's not. You have Krasinski and Portman and Gonzalez and Gleason. You have Guy Ritchie directing it. And you have Apple budget. You can see there's a budget in this movie. Like, they put some money into this film. And at the end of the day, it was just like, I don't really know who this movie was for. Because you didn't market it really for anybody. It feels very much like an action-adventure type film for like the Indiana Jones, the Uncharted, the National Treasures. But it doesn't do enough to hook me into this film outside of just liking these four leads. And at the end of the day, the movie ends, and I'm just like, okay, I feel like I kind of wasted almost 2 hours. I'm not mad at it, but I'm definitely fucking disappointed in it. But at the same time, why should I be disappointed in a film that I didn't even know existed 3 weeks ago? I think I gave it 3 stars because I wasn't like I said, it's fine. It's fine for what it is, but for everyone involved, I expect more.
Yeah, I only found out about this movie when I was again preparing for my anticipated 2025. I found a listing for this thing coming out sometime this year. I'm like, oh, this cast and Guy Ritchie, definitely one to keep an eye on. Didn't know anything more about it until, like you said, maybe a month before it came out, they dropped a trailer for it. And at that point, I'm like, oh, this trailer doesn't do a whole lot for me. I'm not sure about this movie, but I'm like, I'll still check it out because, you've seen bad trailers before and this many people involved, it's got to be great, right? But I watched the movie, and now you had, like you said, you had warned me because you had already been watching it. But I watched it, and like the first 10 minutes, I was already kind of like, oh, I don't think
you sent me that like 10 minutes in. I'm like, oh my god, this is bad. I go, I told you the first 20 minutes are rushed, and then it slows down.
Well, it wasn't even a matter of the fact that it was rushed. Because, I mean, you can drop somebody, you can start a movie, drop it in the middle where you don't know who this character is. Like the first Raiders of the Lost Ark, you drop in, you don't know who Indiana Jones is. You dropped in his venture. That's Steven
Spielberg. Does a very good job of establishing Indiana Jones.
It's Spielberg at a different level.
Job.
Yeah. But so, I mean, it can be done well. I don't think it was done well here. And the rushing was an issue so much as just, I wasn't digging, I think I said to you, I wasn't digging the tone of it. It's kind of like it had like this weird comedic music. It had these jokes that fall flat, but then it had like all this action choreography, which both in the driving and in like the hand-to-hand, just that action choreography felt super stiff. It just seemed like it was, the movie itself didn't seem like it was up to the level of the cast they assembled.
You know what it felt like? It felt very much like the Guy Ritchie that I don't like.
Well, that's the funny thing to me is like I felt
like old Guy Ritchie to me.
This didn't feel like Guy Ritchie to me at all. This felt to me like Guy Ritchie was just like, it's not a Guy Ritchie film. It felt to me like this is Guy Ritchie as a director for hire, So now I don't
It
know.
definitely didn't feel like his script. It didn't feel like it had the same punchiness to it.
He has
It
no
didn't
writing
feel
credit on this.
yeah.
So it wasn't really a Guy Ritchie film so much as they hired Guy Ritchie to direct this movie.
Much like
And
Gareth
you can
Edwards
tell
with
because it
Jurassic
definitely
World
doesn't
Rebirth.
because it definitely doesn't have a feeling, so it's not personality to it. And now since Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, there have been, even from back there in the 80s to now, there have been lots of movies that try to basically copy it. And that can be done well. I mean, if you think about like the Mummy movies, I don't love them as much as some people, but it's one of the better knockoffs of Raiders of the Lost Ark. National Treasure is kind of the same kind of thing, the same kind of adventure theme to it. That's pretty well done. This one feels like, whereas those feel like they're copying Indiana Jones, this feels like it's copying the movies they're copying Indiana Jones, like a third generation copy, or things that get not as good the farther you go down.
It felt like it was copying National Treasure with more of an Indiana Jones vibe, with the comedic tone of Uncharted, but it didn't earn that comedic
It
tone.
feels like it wants to do all those things, but it ends up feeling, if anything, I thought closer to like, what was it called? The Librarian movies with Noah Wiley. It felt like those.
Which is a TV show that became like
it
TV
felt like a
movie.
made-for-cable, adventure show.
If this was done like right after The Office ended and Krasinski was not like a big time like movie actor director, I would be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's exactly what this is. But Natalie Portman is still in this movie.
And Natalie Portman, now I will say, I always enjoy seeing Natalie Portman do fun movies because so often she just does serious stuff. She very seldom pops up in a comedy. Once in a long while, she'll show up in a comedy or something more. This isn't necessarily a comedy, but something more lighthearted like this. And I do like seeing her in that role. I like John Krasinski. I think he has this usual kind of humor and personality to this, even if it doesn't really work at all times in this movie. But again, it's a script issue. Isa Gonzalez, who I love not just for her looks, although she's a beautiful woman, but I like to see her pop up in things. But all of them just seemed, like you said, wasted in this movie, and it's just like it wasn't doing anything for me. I found myself bored by the movie. By the time I got to the end, I was kind of like, whatever, man, just do it. And I ended up giving 2.5 stars because I was disappointed by this movie.
I've got just the final 3 for me. Do you have any more?
I'm just gonna go through a couple real quick on this one.
Okay.
I saw Shadow Force, the movie with Kerry Washington, Omar Sy. It's an action movie directed by Joe Carnahan, who I've always liked. Joe Carnahan. He's done Smoking Aces. He did the A-Team movie. He did Boss Level. He did Cop Shop. So I really kind of like Joe Carnahan's movies. The problem for me is this movie, it's yet another movie in the, you didn't know mom and dad were actually super spies. Which seems like there's so many of those movies now where like somebody, that they're family people, but they're really, either they were or still are.
Wasn't there one already out this year that did that?
Probably. There's so many of them now. I can't even remember.
I'm looking. Is this a sister movie?
But it's like everybody in the movie, Kerry Washington is fine. Omar Sy is fine. Mark Strong is playing kind of the same thing Mark Strong always plays. Divine Joy Randolph and Method Man are basically just there for like comic relief. They're like the friends of this couple. They have some things to do with the plot, but they're mostly their comic relief. And every time they cut to them, it's just annoying. It's like you don't need this. Let's try to stay. But
Back in Action.
Oh yeah. I never finished that movie, so that's why I didn't.
Yeah. Back in Action.
Yeah, so I saw this one mainly because I wanted to see. I was going to see a movie. I had nothing else to see. Nothing else was out. I'm like, fine, I'll go see this one because I have the A-list. It doesn't cost me anything, and I like Joe Carnahan, so I'm like, I'll check it out. But this one disappointed me as well. It was too. What's weird is it's too violent. It feels like, I don't know if it was R-rated. I don't know if he has a rating. I mean, it obviously has a rating. Is it R? I don't even know. But it seems like it's too actual action. It is R-rated, hardcore action to be for a family audience. Which, when you're going to have the ones with like the kids involved, so like that almost feels like it has to be a PG-13 or even PG, depending on the movie, if it's like Spy Kids thing. But at the same time, there's too much of the whole family kind of feel to it to really appeal to the people who are into it for the action. So, despite the cast, despite the director, this is another one that kind of disappointed me. I gave it 2.5 stars. I saw Juliet and Romeo, which is a musical.
Which you didn't even know existed until I told you about it.
Yeah, it's a musical version of Romeo and Juliet. You'd think that with Juliet's name being first, it's like, oh, this is told from the point of view of Juliet. No, that has nothing to do. They did it purely to just, differentiate it when you're looking up the movie. This one will stand out because it has them in a different order. I like musicals. I like Shakespeare. So, I'll enjoy any movie about that to a certain extent. But this one, again, this is not yet another 2.5-star movie for me. I didn't particularly like the movie. I didn't hate it though. But it's completely forgettable. The leads are bland as can be. The songs are bland as can be. They sound like something out of a Disney Channel original movie. And I just, yeah, it's just not a movie I would bother checking out.
Let me ask you this, because I asked you, because when we talked about this during the summer movie preview, I was like, you know what though? I was like, Rebel Wilson looks like she's playing it straight. This might actually be a movie that I can actually buy her as being a normal fucking human being in this, because the trailers made her seem like she was playing this kind of normal.
Well, because they really pushed in the trailers. They pushed Rebel Wilson, and then to a lesser extent, Jason Isaacs and Dan Fogler, because they're basically kind of the three notable. I mean, actually, Derek Jacobi's in there, Rupert Everett, but they're kind of the ones people would recognize. But no, Rebel Wilson's playing that completely straight. She's just playing the mom, so she's kind of playing a straight role. I want to say that her company produced this or something. I think that's why she's involved in it.
So she can't play roles where she's not doing extra shit. She can't play normal.
She can. I mean, I didn't love her in this, and it's hard to tell, how her singing was. She's singing Pitch Perfect, but but like in Pitch Perfect here, it's clearly everybody's voice in this is so super auto-tuned to the point there where everybody's voice sounds the same essentially. There were literally scenes where I'm like, I can't tell which character's singing right now unless I see their mouth move, because they all sound the same. But she played it straight and it was fine. She didn't bother me. She was actually in it a lot less than I expected, because based on the trailer, they didn't push her as the star of the movie, but they showed her a lot in the trailer because she's one of the few recognizable faces. But luckily, she is not in the movie that much. But I'd say pass on this one. Juliet Romeo.
I mean, yes, did the movie end the same fucking way as every other one?
Actually, no.
Really?
I'm a spoiler for you. Guess what? They live and they go off to live happily ever after.
Oh my god! So it actually did do something different. Because as I was watching, as I talked about, it was like why?
The movie is like, why did they fucking change Shakespeare? And
it was just like, why do we keep doing this Romeo and Juliet story over and over and over again? It ends the same fucking way every time. But this one actually did it differently. So you know what? I'll give it kudos for that. I haven't seen the movie, but I'll give it kudos for at least doing something different with it.
Okay. Right. And the last solo one I'm going to talk about, I just watched last night, and it's a movie called A Breed Apart. This is a movie starring Grace Caroline Curry and Virginia Gardner. They're the two girls from the movie Fall. If you remember that movie where they crawled up the top of that tower and they ended up there. Those
and Grace is also from Shazam, for people who don't know the Fall.
Yeah. They're both in this movie, as well as a lot of people I don't recognize. Hayden Panettiere is in it. Essentially a cameo. She's got about 2 scenes in this movie. And Troy Gentile, I believe is his name. He's the guy who's he was in the TED TV show. He played young Jack Black in a couple different movies.
Okay, I don't even talk about that.
He looks in this movie, he looks exactly like Johnny Galecki. If you know who Johnny Galecki is, it's kind of weird. This is a movie that I was intrigued by the trailer, but it's getting savaged in reviews. Like, most of the reviews are 1/2 star or 1 star. People calling it the worst movie ever, trashing this movie because I think of the trailer. The trailer made it look like a straightforward horror movie. This movie, if you watch it, is clearly super low budget. It looks and feels like a sci-fi original type movie, where it's basically it knows that it's cheesy. It's being campy on all those movies like Super Anaconda versus Dino Raptor, all that kind of shit.
Yeah,
it feels like one of those, it feels like a Sharknado movie. I mean, not the same budget or anything, but it's like it's clearly intentionally cheesy. It's funny. It's basically, the plot is like there's this island with all these wild rabid dogs on it. Nothing's on this small island except for these dogs. And then some influencer apparently has bought the island, and he wants to go and build basically this a tourist attraction, this almost like a theme park there. So he invites all of these other big streamers and influencers to come to his island for a private party, and then and they're gonna be streaming all this stuff. And then basically all the dogs attack and shit goes wild.
I think I remember this movie now because it's the streamer movie, and I think we talked about it in the summer movie preview, and I was like, I don't fucking care about this.
Well, here's the thing: is like it's been savaged in like I said in a lot of reviews because the trailers made it look super serious, and I think people went in expecting that, and it's not. But I'm not gonna lie, I had fun watching this movie. I think that this is a movie that it knew exactly what kind of movie it was trying to be, and it fully embraced that, and it completely succeeded at that because it knows it's a comedy almost first and foremost. I'd say it's an equal balance of I don't know if I call it horror, thriller, and comedy because it's a lot of fun. It's got tons of just like the sci-fi originals. It's got really some bad CGI in a lot of parts, but it's fun. So if you go into this just knowing this, looking for something fun, funny, enjoyable to watch, I actually recommend I would watch this. I would watch this before a lot of the other movies we talked about tonight because this was fun as long as you know what you're getting into because it's not a horror movie. It's not supposed to be serious and scary at all.
So what'd you give it?
I gave it 3 stars.
Oh, okay. All right. And that was your last one before the final 3?
I toyed with the 3.5, honestly, but I was like, I cannot justify giving this movie 3.5 stars. But it is fun. Yeah. All I have left is the final 3.
Okay. All right. So our next one is the last movie we all watched together. So these are going to be joint reviews. The other movie that came out this weekend outside of Mission Impossible and Fountain of Youth was Fear Street Prom Queen on Netflix. Now, for anyone who was around this channel back in 2021, was that when the Fear Street trilogy came out?
I'll look it up. Keep talking.
I want to say it was 2021. Netflix did this thing with Fear Street, which for people who don't know, Fear Street, R.L. Stine, before he did Goosebumps, he did Fear Street, which is kind of like your teenage horror books series. And Prom Queen was definitely one of the more popular ones. But they decided to do a trilogy movie event where they dropped a new movie every Friday for 3 weeks. There was 1994, 1978, and then 1666. And then now each movie on its own was okay. They weren't great. The acting was not that good on most of them. But what helped was that by the time you got to the end of 1666, you found out that the story was all the movies were connected. And it brought everything in. And so you watch them all 3 as a whole. It actually is a pretty entertaining, interesting ride. That's just got some really weak acting in it at certain points, but a very solid entry for what it was. And so they decided to do Fear Street Prom Queen this year. And we're like, okay, are they doing something special, unique, awesome with it? No, it's just a standalone Fear Street movie. This takes place in 1988, so it's in the same world as the trilogy, because they do bring up the second film, which is 1978, but it doesn't have any real connective tissue to the trilogy outside of just showing you like 3 snippets of the second film. So it doesn't have like any of the characters or cast, anything from
no
the trilogy
at all. It just exists in the same universe. Yeah,
exactly. It's just that's 10 years after the 1978 film, and it's a straight up, high school prom horror movie. You're following for the most part, a teenage cast. Main lead is India Fowler. Don't really know her in much. Honestly, a lot of these young actors, they basically were like, she looks like 4 different actresses, and every time I see her, I just keep thinking of those. This actor looks like 3 actors that I know from when they were that age, and I'm picturing them when I'm watching this movie. So it's pretty much just like a kind of almost like an AI generated film of actors. Give me someone who looks like Ashley Johnson and this person, India Fowler. Give me someone who looks like
I need Anne Hathaway, but 20 years younger. Okay, here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's Fina Straza. It's like that's basically what this is. But it does have some names in this. Catherine Watterson. I was like, oh my God, she's in this. Ariana Greenblatt. She's pretty good young actress. She's in this. Chris Klein. Not the greatest actor, but I was shocked when I saw him in this.
He's never been a good actor, let's be fair.
No. And Lily Taylor, she's solid. I wasn't so when I saw those 4 pop up, I'm like, is this like are they actually getting like not like big names, but like are they actually getting names for these now? So that helped a little bit with it. Is this one as entertaining or as catchy as the trilogy? No. It's not bad. I will say the acting is probably better than the acting in the trilogy. It's definitely written better than the trilogy. I wouldn't say it's as exciting or as fun or as interesting or intriguing as the trilogy of films. It's just kind of for the most part, unless they're going to come out with some more and it's all going to tie together, it's pretty much just a standalone Fear Street prom queen film. Pretty easy to figure out who the killer is, because if you have if you have some names in this movie, you obviously are going to bring them in for a reason. So, if anything, I just narrowed down the killer to 4 people for you.
Yeah, I was debating whether or not to discuss the killer and how obvious it was, because it's like, okay, I know it's somebody here, and then you quickly figure out which one it is.
Yeah, so figure it out, guys. But at the end of the day, it just I wasn't mad at it, but my expectations were a little bit higher because of what the trilogy did back in 2021, and it didn't match that. Like I said, it's not bad by any means. It's just kind of, had the trilogy not happened and they just dropped this, would I have given this even a remote watch? No, I wouldn't have. So the trilogy did its job. It's going to make me check out these Fear Street movies, but they're not going to win me over if every movie's just kind of blah like this. Some of the kills are cool, but it just kind of is a standard run-of-the-mill kind of like 80s-esque kind of throwback horror. And I mean that kind of in the one of those horror movies that was out in the 80s that you don't ever remember unless some random movie guy like us goes, hey, you remember like Slumber Party? Back in the 80s, like, oh yeah, couldn't remember a single fucking thing about it, but I remember it was a horror movie in the 80s, and that's what Fear Street Prom Queen is like. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just kind of in that middle territory, but it's definitely not going to be memorable. I gave it 2.5.
I ended up giving it 3 stars. Because I kind of looked at it the same way. I was like, it's not great, it's not bad, but I enjoyed it. It's fine for what it was. And actually, it's funny because in the review I put on Letterboxd is pretty much exactly what you just said, which is that I think that the previous trilogy of films, they were better than people expect them to be, so they kind of raised everybody's expectations. And for this one, and then when this one didn't live up to those, and definitely didn't exceed your expectations the way those did, that people came away from it disappointed. But for me, this feels like exactly what I expected the Fear Street films to be, because it, as I understand it, Fear Street is basically kind of like the teenage kind of the older teens version of like Goosebumps.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, they basically made this
Fear,
for like
Fear Street was around before Goosebumps, and then basically R.L. Stine was like, you know what? If I write this same kind of thing, but for kids and not teenagers, where I don't have to worry about like hormones and all this shit, I could write kids ones like Are You Afraid of the Dark, but his style. And then boom, there was Goosebumps. So Fear Street was around before Goosebumps was.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. So I learned.
Oh yeah, because it was him and then Christopher Pike. They were like the 2 like teenage horror novelists, and then he did Goosebumps and completely destroyed Christopher Pike.
Yeah, so with the Fear Street, I kind of expected it to be like these kind of one-off, harmless, kind of mediocre films. They're kind of aimed at teens. Now I even with the first trilogy, and especially with this one too, I'm a little surprised that since this is supposed to be a thing aimed at like teenagers, that it's so hardcore R, just blood and guts and things flying everywhere, and it's pretty graphic in a lot of the parts, and the language and stuff too. So it's like I'm not sure what audience they're really going after with this.
I think they're going for like people our age who read R.L. Stine books and want to see that stuff, but they still have to keep it in that realm still.
Yeah, I guess. But like I said, this is kind of what I expected the Fear Street films to be, and the last trilogy I didn't even watch those because I thought it'd just be kind of like throwaway movies. It took Sean telling me how great they were and pitching me on. I'm like, fine, I'll check it out. And while I didn't, I think, enjoy them as much as he did, I was surprised by how much I did enjoy those movies. I thought they were actually pretty good.
I don't love them. I was surprised about how by the time 1666 hit the halfway point, I was like, oh shit, they actually turned this thing fucking around. Because it got to the point where I almost was hate watching them. And then halfway through 1666, where it like, oh, this is all, oh shit. and then
So I
it
think
made
that was the advantage
me.
there, is they had these stories that tied together into
Yeah,
one bigger story, and this is just
yeah.
this feels like, oh, here's another one-off. This
It
is
was more like this is a fucking massive train wreck that they did for 3 straight weeks, and then went, oh wow, you somehow got it back on track, and this actually ended really fucking good.
yeah. See,
Yeah.
like Fear Street, I feel like it's something that they should, put out like one, especially if it's for Netflix, just put out like one every year, like at Halloween times, like here's Fear
Yeah.
Street this year, and
Fear Street and anthology
here's your
thing.
Halloween story
Yeah.
for the year. And if you
Yeah,
want to do
exactly.
occasionally, if you want to do like a 3-part thing like they did before, you can do that. But otherwise, you just do one-off
But
films.
do it do it at Halloween time. Don't
But
drop
they're
it in
releasing this
fucking May.
movie in the middle of nowhere in May, and I think it's just going to
Granted,
get buried.
it's Prom. They dropped
It
it
is
right
Prom
around the end of
season.
so I
It
can
is
see
Prom.
why they did it that way.
So I get it, but I can see this being appealing to certain audiences. I enjoyed it enough. I didn't regret watching it, like you said. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again, but it's fine.
I like the lead. I thought India Fowler was solid enough to the point where if she popped up in something else, I'd be like, oh, that's the girl from Fear Street. Okay. But yeah,
Most of the
it
people in
wasn't
this movie I like. Now the adult actors, I think it was like, okay, so clearly they weren't hired just to come in and just play, mom and dad standing there. Um, and then Lily Taylor as well. It's like I was expecting to see something more coming out of her, just because they're like the few names that and so I didn't have a problem with most of the acting except for the one who was like basically the head mean girl. The one who's like the head mean girl. Now, I don't know if this is a script issue or an acting issue, but I felt like they were just overdoing that. I'm like, come on.
I feel like because of their age, it's kind of a mixture of both. Because if it was an established actress who we know, it's like, okay, it's a script issue. We don't know this girl. So it could be a mixture of the script, or she's just not that great of an actress.
But it was like it was too over the top. So you're kind of like, okay, let's just kind of scale this.
Yeah,
back.
there was that one scene where she literally is like, I'm gonna tell you about what happened with your mom and dad, like you don't fucking already know, and just go full on mean girl to the point where her friend's like, okay, you're gone too far. I'm like, yeah, you're going too far because now you're going cartoonishly like 80s evil teenager, and I'm like, okay, this scene's not hitting the way you think it's hitting for the audience. It's just annoying at this point.
Yeah, and yes, Chris Klein's acting was as awful.
Chris Klein, you just watch him for enjoyment. It's just like you're not going to get a stellar performance, so it's just like, what's he going to say in this movie that's just going to make you laugh?
There's that one scene of his which is especially bad, and you probably know the scene I'm thinking of right now. But I was literally laughing out loud at how bad his acting was.
Yeah, Chris Klein is enjoyable to watch for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. Next, we will go with a movie that for a franchise that has come back after, God, it's been almost 15
The last one was 2011, I think.
2011, so almost 15 years since the last one came out. We were talking about Final Destination Bloodlines. This is a franchise that Brian and Kimberly both love. I am on it. I enjoyed the first. I don't even say enjoy, because I went back before I reviewed this. I was like, what did I give the other ones? And I was like, I think I gave the first one 3 stars, and then all the others was between 2 and 3. So I love the concept and I love the execution, but the stories have never been good for me, which I know for Brian, it's like Saw. It's like the story's not important, it's the execution of the kills, which is like how we argue with every Saw fan. When they say the same shit to us. So it's like, no. So this is his version of Saw, basically. But they're coming back with a new story called Bloodlines. A relative, for the most part, all people that we don't know cast-wise, outside of the late Tony Todd, which I think we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I didn't really know any.
Yeah, I'm just glancing at the cast list. I honestly don't recognize a single name.
I think Uncle Howard is
faces were like, okay, I've seen that person before, but it's
they're character actors, but they're not leads. Yeah. They're like people like, oh yeah, I saw that as this one dude in this one TV show episode, but no big name people outside of Tony Todd. Yeah. But basically, this one is following a different mindset, and I think Brian and I are both going to touch at the end of this how people are totally misreading this fucking film. Which is really annoying the fuck out of me and Brian. But basically, the storyline for this one is that it goes back to, was it the 50s or the 60s? 60s. And it's basically like a skytop restaurant.
It's like a Skyview restaurant. It looks kind of like the Space Needle in Seattle.
Exactly. And they're all at the very top. It's a restaurant. Basically, the plot of Drop, to the point. Isn't Drop in like a Space Needle like fucking restaurant?
That kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's basically Drop. And in Final Destination Quality, you know, the girl in there, she gets a vision of this douchebag fucking little kid who's really poorly acted with a fucking penny, and it causes this domino effect that causes the whole fucking thing to go down and everyone to die. Basically, and I know this is a little / spoiler, but just to explain the fucking plot, she basically saves not just 5 people like in all the other movies, she saves almost everybody in the fucking place. And because of that, all these people lived when they were supposed to die. And because of that, they went on to have families and children and stuff like that. And so basically, death is going back and killing everyone that survived this.
Existed, yeah.
Yeah, and not just the people who survived, but their fucking bloodlines as well. So it's going back and it's killing, you know, the grand to grandchildren of people who survived this fucking thing, which is fucking diabolical, and the mindset is actually fucking brilliant. And we basically have gotten to like the end, like the last 2 people who survived in the vision, and we're following basically the granddaughter of the girl in that, and that is the lead. Is that Stephanie? Yeah, Stephanie. Which is Caitlin Santana Jana, something like that. And we're following her and basically her family, and Death's going after her family, not her friends, like we always get in every other Final Destination movie. So it is a lot more of in terms of a cutthroat kills, because it's not like, oh, it's killing the generic jock that's an asshole. It's like, no, they're killing brothers and sisters and cousins and all this kind of stuff. So that's basically what Bloodline is in a nutshell. And then, of course, they bring back the great Tony Todd for one final performance, playing. I don't think, did we ever have a name for him? We actually have a fucking name for him now in the franchise. I don't think he ever had a name in any of the other movies. He was just the
I think it was credited like Mortician or whatever.
Yeah, he was the crazy mortician guy. Now he's William John Bloodworth. He actually has a full fucking name finally. As great as it was seeing him, it was very sad seeing him because he just looked so sickly in that final scene. But he did have one great final line, knowing that he passed away shortly after this was filmed. So that was a great, beautiful moment. I would say, and Brian's inclined to agree with me because we already talked about this movie together off screen. My main problem with the movie, for the most part, I enjoyed it. So this is more positive than negative. I didn't give a shit about anyone in this fucking movie, not named Tony Todd, except for these 2 brothers, played by Richard Harmon, who plays Eric, and Owen Patrick Joyner, who plays Bobby. These 2 characters.
Except they're actually Walmart Robert Pattinson and the Lost Hemsworth brother.
Yes, exactly. Because as soon as she sent me that text, I busted a gut because I'm like, he does look like Pattinson. The Hemsworth one, I was like, yeah, but the Pattinson one killed me because he definitely does. These 2 characters, mainly Eric, has the most charisma, has the best lines, and it's just the one character that you gravitate towards watching whenever he's on screen. Bobby comes in a little late because he's kind of just like that one person who's like in the scene but has no lines. But then when it's finally like Death comes towards you, he's the next one on the list. All of a sudden, he's got all this character development and all these and I'm like, oh my god, I don't want these people to die. I love these 2 characters. I didn't really give a shit about the main leads. I didn't really care about Stephanie or her brother Charlie, played by Tio Bronies. I just didn't care about them, and I don't know if it was a performance issue with them. Like I just don't know if I bought the performances, but they just were kind of like the stick in the mud characters. And granted, the lead always kind of is because they're all like, "You're gonna die," no one believes you, and so the characters are always played like that. But I just didn't buy them much like Devon Sawa and not Amy Smart. Second main girl.
Allie Larder.
Yeah, Allie Leiter and even Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Like, I bought their performances. I didn't really buy the performances of the leads. So I gravitated towards Eric and Bobby. The kills in this, there were, I would say, 2 outside of like the main sky one, because the sky one was actually, you know, pretty cool to look at. Outside of like 3 character deaths, all the other deaths were not as intricate as Final Destination is. It was just kind of like, bam, kill him kind of thing, which kind of just was like, shock factor, cool. But the whole part of Final Destination is kind of the, what do you call the
Rube Goldberg?
Yes, the Rube Goldberg effect. Like, oh, this thing happened here, which causes this to happen here.
I will say, in defense of that, I think that's all the Final Destinations have that to some extent, where there's like 3 or 4 of them that kind of have the Rube Goldberg thing, and then there's like one person just gets like hit by a bus or something falls on them. You know.
But in this one, most of them were like that kind of thing, where it's just like, oh, and this happened, and you just died. Whereas like there were like 3 that were like, oh, because of this, and this, and those were the most fun, intricate deaths.
Oh, they are. You definitely, yeah.
But like, and like even and I loved how it ended, and I'm not going to spoil how it ends. But the last little at the end was like, I was like, you sons of bitches, you fucking sons of bitches. You guys are definitely fans of the franchise. I understand that because you guys know what the fuck you're doing at that point. It's just the whole movie as a whole. I didn't really love it. Now, in terms of the Final Destination, I think I have it kind of like right there with 1, if not a little bit better than 1, just because of the performances. But even then, I still just kind of, I gave it like a 3-star. I didn't really love it. One actress, Anna Lore, who plays like Julia, which is like the sister, she was fucking awful. And luckily, she's not in the movie that long. Spoiler. But goddamn, every time she fucking talked, I was like, that delivery was bad. It was sharp. It was direct. It was not good. God, I can't wait for her to die. And then she actually does die pretty fun. I was like, thank God she's dead, because I hated her on screen. But it was compared to the franchise, it's solid like the others. I just kind of, I guess, 15 years away from the franchise. I had fun. I guess that's the most important thing when it comes to Final Destination is, did I have fun while watching it? And I did. Afterwards, I was like, it could have been better. But
yeah. I've always loved this franchise. I mean, I'm somebody who loves every single one of the films. Some of them are obviously, a little more cheesy than others, especially as they got into like the 3D ones where they were really having fun with it. With the story, maybe wasn't as good, but the kills were still creative and fun, almost more creative and fun because they were dealing with 3D, things like that. But so I enjoy all these films to different extents. I was happy to hear they're rebooting it. And this one I was going to get to see in IMAX, so it doesn't really make a difference in a movie like this. But just the fact to see one back on the big screen again was going to be fun. I agree with Sean pretty much everything he said. The 2 brothers, only people I cared about in this movie. Everybody else ranged from I don't care about them to please God kill them now. I hope they're next, because I rooted for most characters in this movie to die. But the 2 brothers I liked. They were definitely the best part of this. The opening scene disaster, I thought was very well done. I enjoyed that part. I think I was even talking to Sean about how, honestly, I wouldn't mind if that's what Final Destination did. They had a whole movie of like Final Destination, like in the 60s. They have another one set in the 70s. One said, because this thing of all the cool creative kills you could do with like, in these different time periods.
I was so thrown off at the beginning.
Do a medieval one. I don't care.
Yeah, I was so thrown off at the beginning when we were in the 50s. I was like, wait, the movie is not set in this. I'm like, wait, it's a Bloodline thing. Okay, I think I get it now. And sure enough, once I figured out, I'm like, oh, okay. But I was like, I'm not angry at this, like, shoot-wop kind of like, yeah, I was like, okay.
I kind of like the idea. Of course, they jumped to present day in this, but honestly, I almost wish they would go back and do them more like period pieces like that. Because I think that could be fun. But yeah, the kills in this are fun. They're creative. They get to have some fun with it. Some are more gory than others. But I gave it 3.5 stars because, like I said, I enjoyed this quite a bit. But I don't understand. There's people that are like raving about this movie. They're talking about, this is the best one of the franchise, or it's so much better than the other ones. I'm like, it feels to me very much more of the same. It feels like it's right there with all the other. It's not. I don't like it less. But I don't see how people are like rating it so much higher than the others.
And it's because people are misunderstanding the fucking Bloodline aspect. First off, I think the Bloodline aspect was actually brilliant, but they didn't utilize it in a way that I think would have actually made it awesome. They waited till it got to the very last 2, and then it was just boom on this family. Had we actually gone through like the Bloodline kind of thing and started like murking off tons of people, I actually think it would have been a lot cooler. Now, granted, that'd be a way different kind of movie, and it wouldn't be Final Destination. But I liked the concept of the whole Bloodline thing. The problem that people are getting, and even I had it for like a split second, then I immediately went, oh, wait, no, I have a brain, and I know how the other movies are, is people are thinking that this whole Bloodline thing, where it's like, oh, it's everyone who lived in this 1950s incident, death's come back to kill them all, is they're like, this connects it all the way to the first film. The only thing that connects us to the other films is Tony Todd. This does not connect any of the other movies. You're like, oh, all the deaths from the other films are part of this bloodline. First off, fuck you.
We won't go into more detail than that. We don't go into any more detail than that on why.
Well, no. Oh, the only thing is because it goes back to the movies. If it was connected to all of them, then all like Devon Sawa's parents, or maybe Elizabeth Winstead's parents, or any of the teenagers that are killed through all the other films, parents would have been killed in those movies. They are not. So therefore, not the same thing. Not connected. Not bloodlines. But I'm seeing so many people going, this connects everything. This is fucking brilliant. Like, and you and me are both just going, you guys aren't thinking.
Yeah,
you guys are really hearing this one thing.
You realize how that doesn't work now, because they're also because it doesn't recontextualize anything. It doesn't change anything.
No,
it's just another take on the story. And
if anything, all it does is just explain why Tony Todd is the way he is. It explains Tony Todd.
There are brief, references to the other films, like, little tips of the hat, little almost like Easter eggs, or just single shots, or things you see or things you hear in there that kind of refer to the other movies. But beyond that, there's no actual connection to the other movies.
Yes, this does not connect to Devon Sawa or any of the previous characters at all. And people are thinking, stop. If you guys think it is, you're wrong. And if maybe that drops your score down, okay, fine. But like and if you guys believed it, I'm sorry to burst your fucking bubble. It does not connect the franchise. Tony Todd is the only through line through this whole fucking thing. That is it. That's fucking it. But yes, our last movie is a movie that most of you probably don't even know exists. Most of you probably wouldn't even give it a fucking watch. And most of you probably, even after this conversation, probably won't watch it. Because it's a fucking documentary. And people don't watch documentaries a lot. I think there's usually like 1 or 2 documentaries a year that come out that maybe perk my interest. And I think the last one was the Michael J. Fox one, which I'm still trying to get Brian to watch, which he won't watch because he doesn't want to get emotional. But this one, I only knew about this one because I was on Fandango and I was like looking at sales, and this one popped up, and I was like, is this just like a bonus featurette? What is this? And then I saw the trailer for it. I was like, oh, I'm buying this. Like, I'm instantly buying this. And I was worried that it was going to
the first movie I've pre-ordered on Fandango ever. No, there's one other movie I pre-ordered on Fandango, and that was Bill and Ted Face the Music, and fuck that movie. But other than that, I never pre-order anything because I'm the kind of person who wait things to drop in price or something, or maybe just like I'll wait. But I'm like, no, this I want to have day one. I want to watch it. It was only like $10. So I'm like, I'm pre-ordering this shit.
Yeah, this deserves to be at least $20 or $30. We're talking about the documentary Wick is Pain. This is the documentary of the birth of John Wick, and basically how it came to be, how it almost didn't come to be, and how the whole franchise up to this point has been made and worked on tirelessly and everything like that. If you're not a fan of John Wick, I still think you would enjoy this. I really fucking think you will. I think this would actually make you want to watch the John Wick movies if you weren't a fan of John Wick. If you are a fan who is kind of like, I like Keanu Reeves, but I never really cared for the John Wick movies, this movie will make you give a shit about the John Wick movies. And if you're a fan of John Wick, this is a must-watch for you and should be watched before you go see Ballerina. Not that it ties into Ballerina anyway, but if you're a fan of Ballerina, you should be checking this out because you're a John Wick fan like all of us. This documentary is fucking fantastic. It basically follows, for the most part, Chad Stahelski, who's the director of all 4 John Wicks. Keanu is a very integral part of this as well, and also
David Leitch,
who's at least in the first half of the movie, because he really only, for the most part,
directed the first film.
Yeah,
I think he's still credited as producer and things on the other ones, but he's basically on just other movies. Yes.
But this goes through Stilinski and Leach's lives up to that point, you know, how they got into Hollywood and how they, you know, did stunt work and then how they became directors. And this was kind of like, not Leach, was it Leach's first time directing or just Stilinski's?
Both of them first time directing.
Oh, yeah. So it's both their first time directors.
As far as feature films, yes.
Yeah, and so like basically going through how much trouble it was to get this first John Wick film off the ground. You know, how honestly, how much Keanu helped to make sure this movie worked and how much he has put his body through. Like, we credit Tom Cruise for all the crazy shit he does for the Mission Impossible movies and other movies as well, but mainly Mission Impossible. I think we love Keanu for the shit he does in this, but we need to start appreciating Keanu a lot more for what he puts himself through, because as much as what Tom does, Keanu does just as much. And the turmoil that these movies have put Keanu through, his body is ravaged because of these fucking movies. And it just makes you appreciate Keanu more as an actor and just as a fucking person. Not that I think everyone loves Keanu anyway as a person. So I don't think it's going to like make someone who thinks Keanu's a dick, you know, first off, who fucking thinks that? But just the whole, it also, if you're really, really big into behind the scenes Hollywood shit, this does a great job of throwing you into the world of Hollywood and how hard it is to not even just like film a movie, but just to get a movie off the fucking ground and just get it started in terms of needing money, script rewrites, studios trying to get in their fucking hands in there, them constantly, you know, having to go through, what do you call when people watch it beforehand and give you their
test audiences, test screenings.
Yes, test screenings. It really brings you into this world that many people probably don't know existed, or probably have heard it in a line in a movie and we're like, oh, I don't know what the fuck that is. This brings you into that world on top of the awesomeness of what John Wick is. Do I think they would have spent a little less time? Because they spent a lot of time on the first John Wick and they kind of speed through the other John Wicks. I kind of wish they had gotten us a little more time on the others. If there's one negative I have, it's that. And even that's a nitpick. But this is a phenomenal documentary. And like I said, it's like $10 on Fandango, Vudu, whatever you want to call it. It is well worth the watch. It is well worth your time. And I fucking love this documentary.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love making of, you know, behind the scenes stuff from movies. And I especially love when they make like basically a feature film documentary, because there's a difference between the like behind the scenes featurettes, like you see as extras on DVDs and things like that. You can't just string, you know, a bunch of those together and say, okay, now it's a feature length. No, this is a documentary that's made. It's got like a flow to it. It's got a narrative to it. And I think they're done so much better when they're done like that. Like, I remember when Star Wars Episode 1 came out, they had this documentary called The Beginning, which is like a feature length documentary documenting the whole making of that film. And I just loved seeing that as opposed to just seeing like a featurette on this, a featurette on this. I love when they make these kind of movies. So this trailer popped up out of nowhere. On YouTube, I saw this thing about this documentary coming out about John Wick. I'm like, I love John Wick movies. I watched the trailer. The trailer looked great. I'm like, this looked like a great documentary. Going to go great in depth into all the stuff I love about these movies. And so, like I said, as soon as I could, I went and pre-ordered it. Like, you can't go wrong for $10. I love John Wick. I will not regret this, and I did not. I'm beginning to end. I love this documentary. It feels like it was like was made specifically for me, because it's everything I love about the John Wick franchise, as well as just behind the scenes of movie making and stunts. And I loved all that. And I especially loved, I didn't even expect this part, when they went into the history of Chad Stahelski and David Leitch and their whole their stunt company, 87 North and 8711. It's I loved that they spent time showing all that, showing how these two guys came together, showing how they came across the script by Derek Kolstad and they decided to make that their first movie. And like you said, all the ways it almost didn't happen, all the hurdles they had.
Or how they constantly wanted to not have them kill the dog.
Yeah.
How they had to fight for the dog.
Fight against the dog, kind of.
Yeah.
But it's like those little battles. It's like those, you want to see the technical aspects and how they filmed things, how they did stunts, how they trained for stuff. But then it's the little things like that you also want, the behind the scenes stories of what almost happened, what didn't happen, what got changed, what had to be changed. It's all those kind of things that you love about these behind the scenes documentaries that kind of really,
and just even some of the stupid shit that people are arguing about, like the facial hair on Keanu was like such a huge fucking like issue. Like when the first, I'm like, are we really gonna fucking argue over facial hair right now? That's what we're arguing about. It's fucking facial hair.
they're like, well, the people in China don't like facial hair on men, so you got to get rid of that, or we'll sell less tickets. And it's like,
just this is the stupid shit that all these movies have to go through.
Yeah, it really is. So, but you get to witness that, and my only complaint about this movie is Sean kind of touched on it. We talked about how they kind of covered John Wick 1 and then kind of breezed through the next three. Is that I wish they went a lot more in depth on a lot more individual scenes. I want to see a whole section on, Halle Berry and the dogs. I want to see a whole section on, the fight scene in the glass museum basically in John Wick 3. I want to see them go into great detail on the staircase. And yes, I know you can see featurettes on those, but I wanted it to be part of this documentary. And I wish they would have gone way more in depth. And like I said in my review, excuse me, I fully understand that would mean it'd be like a 5-hour documentary. I'd be okay with that. I don't see the problem.
I don't see a problem with that either. I'll watch it in parts. I don't care, but I'm gonna eat it up. And like I said, and I gave it 4.5. You gave it.
I went ahead and gave it 5. I'm like, if my only complaint about it is that it's not long enough, I'm like, I can't hold that against it because.
But yeah, if you guys love John Wick, and I mean like love John Wick, then you owe yourselves to John Wick to shell out $10 and watch this documentary. It'll make you appreciate it so much more. And like I said, and Keanu and Stahelski and Leach, all of them, because like I said, the hard work and the rest of the cast and crew, you get to meet people outside of those three that were integral parts to this film. And the guy who wrote John Wick, I forgot what they first called it. I forgot what the title of it was before it was John Wick. But the guy who literally wrote this, without him, there would be no John Wick. And obviously, like I said, Keanu just championed this movie as well as with Stahelski and Lynn Leach. And
what making also fun was that they spent a lot of time talking like with the stunt crew and the stunt directors and the stunt men. And in this documentary, you see from earlier films, obviously there's Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, but there's also I forgot his name. The guy who directed Extraction, he pops up in here because he's still doing stunts at the time. The J.J. Perry, who directed Day Shift, also a stuntman turned director. He's in this movie. It's kind of fun seeing these guys back when they were still just doing stunts.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is just seeing how much people like love and hated being a part of this. Like it seemed like the actors loved it, and everyone on the crew fucking hated it, but loved it enough to come back. Like by the end of the film, they're like, I fucking don't want to do this again. I hate this. We're doing John Wick 3. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, it's like the love is pain. And I love that it was like love is pain, love is Wick is love, Wick is pain, Wick is fuck yeah, kind of thing. And it is a must watch for anyone who loves documentaries. John Wick, Keanu Reeves action, stunt work. It just, like I said, it's $10. It's well worth it. It's better than most of the stuff that's in theaters right now. Not gonna say all, but most. It's better than. So you can either spend $10 and watch an awesome documentary about a fantastic franchise that everyone loves, or you can spend $12 to $15 watching Lilo and Stitch or the Smurfs or something like that. I'm picking Wick is pain. But anyway,
Wick taking out Smurfs and stuff. No.
I mean, I'll watch that. Anyway, we hope you guys enjoyed all these reviews. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest photos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. Of course, you can follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, probably our next solo review will be Ballerina, The World of John Wick, or The World of John Wick, Ballerina, how the fuck we're just gonna call it Ballerina. That'll probably be the next solo review where we're both gonna be on here talking about, and then all the other movies that are coming out that are in between that. We'll probably wait and do something like this at the end of June and basically do a big, massive review dump there as well. Any big titles, we will obviously have standalone reviews for. Ballerina will be the next one. Like I said, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. We have a non-spoiler review and a spoiler discussion all on there, as well as kind of an overview of the Mission Impossible franchise as a whole. That just came out, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, until next time, we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Waskrug. That is Brian Michaels. I'm Sean Waskrug, as I pointed to Brian. It's late. Anyway, next time, if we don't see you guys, go watch some movies, go have some fun. Go buy Wick is Pain. You will not be disappointed.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.